Brodie, how are you, man?
Good, mate. It's good to finally be on. I feel like this has been, I dare say, like more than 1, 2, 3, 4 years in the making.
Well, I have to apologise off the top because and you know what, you might not believe this, but I'm actually not a pushy person. I'm quite reserved in the fact of, like, if I get a vibe that it's not for that person or they're not replying, I'll often be like, okay, I get it. Like, don't stress. But I think you would have to be in, like, there's probably 3 people that I've gone a bit far with in terms of, like, more, I wouldn't say it's a weird,
No.
It wasn't like restraining order type of thing.
Not at all.
But I was persistent.
I want you to want me.
And I knew that. And I said, if you want me to play this role, I will chase you.
Yes.
I'm happy to do that.
Yes.
You're sort of teasing me.
Yeah.
But I think it's come at a good time.
Oh, it has,
I'm
mate.
happy that it's finally happened, and I appreciate it, but I do apologise for the annoyingness.
No, it's I'm here and I'm so keen, and you summed it up beautifully. It's come at the right time, and for those that obviously listening, watching,
We're on YouTube now.
Fill them in on. We actually were only several kilometres away, living.
I was excited for us.
But we didn't actually cross paths.
No, so well, look, there's a lot to get through, but we are, like, normally in football sense, and maybe in the AFL in Melbourne, a lot of, like, there's this south side sort of thing where everyone lives, like, south of the river, and there's a small predicament of players and people that live north. And I feel like when you do live north, you just have this sort of unspoken bond with people that you live north side with, and you and I both live on the north side of, well, when you're in Melbourne, both lived in that side of town, and we bonded over many things: cafes, lawnmowers, wine bars, because it is too and far between there. But when you get a good one and you get a good area,
No, 100%.
did you love it?
I did. Well, when I got drafted to Collingwood, that was all I knew. I was just set up there. I lived with my auntie actually for early days, and that was all I knew. But obviously, as you alluded to, a lot of the cool cats sort of live north side.
Yeah.
And
Losers.
their losers live down Bayside.
It's really, I've sort of fucked myself a little bit. Not that I want to live in Melbourne forever, to be completely honest, but I have gone so hard at Southside that even if I did, I could never go there now. It's hard for me to
We contemplated it, mate.
Yeah, same.
We actually...
So have I. Same.
Yeah,
Same.
We contemplated it because being from Adelaide, the beaches, it's like, you want to live near the beach. And the trade-off there was eventually we just thought, it's not really such a beach, it's more of a bay. And we just thought, no, we'd rather sort of live a little bit further out, close to some parks, bit more bit more space, bit more nature. And that's our vibe, but each their own. And obviously your vibe.
Well, it was like, hey, we've done sort of the swapperoonie and different sort of contracts, I'm assuming. I don't know, you're not on rookie wages, are you, at the moment?
No.
Okay, just above them. Well, anyway, we both lived in Sydney, and once you've lived here, no offence to the south side of Melbourne, but it's not really like living near the beaches here. So I think once I tick that off, I'm like, it's a bit different. I'm going to go back north side. And look, Melbourne's a beautiful place, but how are you enjoying Sydney?
That is a really important call out. And mate, I'm so grateful and privileged to live where I live. I've landed in North Bondi. People framing my trades and all of my sort of turmoil the last sort of few years. But mate, I am blessed. I live in North Bondi. I'm playing footy at the Sydney Swans. My life is, I'm really, really blessed. I can't believe it's like I'm in a movie, mate. I wake up, summer, sun's on the back, stroll down with the dog, perch up on that little grassy knoll in North Bondi and watch the world go by. So I'm super loving it at the moment. And I can only imagine then having to live, say, back in Melbourne, what that Bay Beach is like in comparison. So, mate, I can only imagine now if we have to live anywhere else but Bondi, the eastern suburbs of Sydney, it's going to be pretty hard to top.
Mate, I think it's like my listeners probably get sick to death of me saying this, but we travel the world and we pay a lot of money to travel the world, go to Europe, go to the States, go everywhere. But what we have in our backyard in this country is incredible. And I know that this is a very top line sort of conversation of the beach, but when you were saying that, you know, I'm up here at the moment with my wife and kid, and we're driving around, and for us, there's like this heartache of like we will be back here one day. At the time, it's probably not the right time at the moment, just with life and things going on. But there's something special about being near the ocean, and this ocean in particular. I'm pretty sure you might have a Vespa. Do you have a Vespa?
Used to.
You don't have it anymore?
No, I don't have it anymore.
Well, I had one the whole time I was up here. I literally didn't have a car, so I was like driving my Vespa around, and it's just, you go to the beach, you jump in, you jump back on your Vespa, wet, and drive home drip dry, like through the wind. And there's just like, I get that feeling you're talking about of like going, fuck, this is ridiculous. This backyard that we have in Sydney. Anyway, you like it then? It's
good, very good. And everything else around that is falling really nicely into place at the moment. So I'm in a good spot, mate.
You spoke about the, as you said, like publicly, and I know that, you know, we're always the main character of our own stories, can be built up quite high.
That's so poetic.
Do you like that?
I fucking love that.
You do, get it tattooed. Of what happens and the heightened and everything around trades and all those bits and pieces, and you end up where you are now and you rap. But when you're going through that period, I suppose the last few years, could you see an exit of that? Could you see like a glimmer of hope of where you wanted to get to?
I probably didn't really project in terms of, years down the track, like geographically where I was going to live or what my career would pan out looking like. I suppose when you sign a long-term contract with, or you didn't do that, I did that, I signed a long-term contract with Collingwood. You vision your life there, and, you start to put mental models around what that looks like. And then when that changes, I think the thing that really helped me was being fluid with that and not having a really fixed mindset around change, around my identity as a Collingwood footballer. So I think being a bit more fluid and accepting of change has really helped. And then, now moving states, that was, quite a big jump because, as you know, we're settled in northern, north part of Melbourne. And, to sort of move states was a big, probably, a significant life decision. But we're super happy with the decision me and my fiance have made. We since I've got traded, got engaged. So it's, people don't understand the nuance and the larger context often at play, when you're playing football or professional sport, that, we're not robots. Yes, we play at AFL and it's highly scrutinised, high performing, highly public, but there's lots of other layers that go into decision making. And we had to sort of unpack those decisions throughout the course of sort of my career, and selfishly, a lot of our decisions have been on the back of my work. Where do we want to have kids? Where do you want to bring up a family? Those sorts of personal, I suppose, life decisions are sort of quintessential, like the most important decisions you can ask yourself. But when it comes to trade stories or narratives, that's largely irrelevant. But to the player, those sorts of decisions are really, really front of mind. So it's been interesting, and now we're here, and we're doing the podcast on Dyl Friends,
we're here,
and I feel like I've made it.
No, you've definitely done that. Don't worry about that. If we can go back and just reflect a little bit on the journey, as you said, like it's sort of, to me as an outsider, a little bit of a blur. Like Collingwood to the D's to the Swans. When was that? It's not that. Actually, it's quite simple. When you put it like that, it's actually quite simple. Yeah. But as you said, there's some more nuances. When was your first recollection of like what was happening at the Pies and that a trade to the D's might be on the cards?
Oh, we're going back now, aren't we? Sort of probably mid-season.
Yeah.
So I had done my knee in the Anzac Day game. Played out the last quarter with no PCL, but
that's pretty impressive.
No, that was the last game I played. I didn't know it was going to be, so I'm happy that I did what I did. And then, sort of in a knee brace and sort of trying to wage a way through long-term injury, which I'd never had before. And then as the cards were sort of aligning throughout the season, the team going so well, my role becoming less and my position in the side becoming less and less relevant, I guess. And conversations throughout the time were pretty transparent and just sort of crystallized in the last, probably towards the finals. I can't really remember now. It was some years ago now, but just pretty much became clear that it was probably best for both parties to shake hands and say, not to be. We just move on. And I think as an industry, it is, and as a player, I still have, strong attachment to the Collingwood Footy Club. I got drafted there, played 10 years there, played in a losing grand final. So in many respects, still unfinished business, with my time there. But I think as an industry, and I suppose through my experience, I think I've matured, and I think the industry's matured on their view on player trades and availability and, the professionalism of sport. So I certainly just tried to see it in that lens and, ultimately tried to find myself somewhere where I could be of service and feel like I can contribute and feel, I suppose, valued in my role and my skill sets. And ultimately, it wasn't to be at Melbourne, and was quick to sort of pivot and reshape again where that could be. And Sydney was the natural suitor. Isn't
it awesome though, mate? And I know maybe for you it wasn't awesome, that sort of trying period, but I think as a fan of sport and a fan of life, I just loved the way that sort of played out, in the sense of, all right, let's make this decision. Let's go for this. You know what? Put our hand up. Fuck, didn't work. All right, cool. Next thing, it's on. Yeah. And I think you're saying before about that fluidity of life, of like, just being a plastic bag and sort of like going with the wind, Like, I know that sounds stupid, but I really do try and live my life like that, knowing that no matter what happens, I'm going to work it out.
Yeah.
And you fast forward to it now and you look at what you're doing now. You're engaged, living in North Bondi, playing for the Swans, and potentially could win a premiership this year a really cool team.
But that mindset is really scary.
Yeah.
And in many
in a good way?
Yeah, but in many respects, probably what was what made the move to Melbourne make such sense. It was very least disruptive. It was in many respects moving next door in terms of the club. The only thing I really tangibly had to change in my life was
my wardrobe.
Yeah, it was my wardrobe. No, it was my role on game day, which obviously inevitably was the main reason why they came unstuck. And I think it was a really mature conversation at the end of the year, or some weeks really before the end of the year, about saying, putting my hand up and saying, hey, I don't want to die with the music still in me. I still got a long career left, hopefully, and I still want to be a high performing player in an AFL side. And Melbourne were fully respectful of that. And I think when you have the intentions to go in with really positive intentions, and Melbourne knew that, and I tried to conduct myself in a way that was, in the best sort of club man that I could, and be authentic still to Brodie Grundy, and I think I did that, and we'll ultimately be able to come to the table at the end of the day and say, as you said, we had a crack. It didn't necessarily work out the way we liked, but I think it's important with any endeavour, whether it's footy or business or life, to keep sort of reevaluating, are we on track to where we want to go? If we're not, why is that? Can we change that? if we can, then let's sit down and put our heads together. And no, I'm really thankful that obviously they facilitated that trade, selfishly for me. But I also selfishly learnt a lot about my time at Melbourne. I really loved my year there. People think that's quite bizarre that I say that, but I made some really good friends with Ed Langdon, Christian Petrarca, Jack Viney, Angus Brayshaw, Gorney, all those guys I think are, with a similar age demographic to me as well, and similar interests. So it was really cool. And to be able to see when you go, when you start out at Collingwood and you're around high performers, Scott Pendlebury, Still Sidebottom, Swanee, even from back in the day. Shout out to Swanee.
I'm not sure if he listens.
When you around high performers and, you don't know whether... Well, it's just interesting when you observe high-performing people, and then when you pluck yourself out and put yourself in a new environment, a new culture, and you still see similar things in high-performing individuals when the culture's different, when the club's different, environment's different, wins and losses are different. And I was able to observe traits in people that were, really consistent. And so I think it's been a good thing for me to have had a breadth of experience in my 12 years playing now. I think it's been ultimately something that will hold me in really good stead. And, when you just play for one club, it's sort of it's a beautiful legacy that you can create, but also you don't get to see. Now I'm finding out what it's like to travel every second week and live interstate, and I'm having a full rounder experience as a player. When at times, you have those troughs, but you come through the other side and you realize it's just painting a bigger picture of the AFL experience.
Oh, mate, I couldn't agree more. It's music to my ears. You saying that. I suppose I gathered you'd have that perspective on things, but it's so cool to hear it, because I think as public and maybe as players, you can get obsessed with this legacy of a one club player. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's a fantastic thing.
It is so good.
It's so cool.
It's really special.
It's fucking incredible.
But the thing is, and I'm going to rattle this mic back.
Your show, mate.
Is with the one club player and the legacy and being injured, I really realised, when I moved clubs, it was really like unfathomable, because the sort of Brodie Grundy and Collingwood was quite synonymous with each other, and but what I see now is, and I felt like I didn't really know how to sort of handle that early days, because I was dealing with that sort of in my 10th year. But I realise now, like injury, whether it's form, getting traded, contracts, whatever it might be, any sort of adversity, it's just so normal. Like what I went through is actually a normal part of the industry.
It's relatable.
It is. It's so relatable.
You're not meant to be good all the time.
It is just you're actually just right. Like what I feel now, I've had a more holistic representation of what a career is. If that, do you know what I mean,
mate? I
because you can
know exactly.
You can be it outright. I look at what Pendle's done. Just an extreme outlier, talent, professional, and deserves all the success that comes his way, and we celebrate that. But that is the top 0.1%.
Anomaly.
And so now I'm starting to reframe, and we always want to be high performing, and we're going to drive to be, Scott Pendlebury-esque. But in reality, there's a bell curve of experience, and I think the longer you stay in the game, you realize you probably end up sort of diverging, somewhere in the middle in terms of the ups and downs of footy, if that makes sense.
Completely.
Yeah.
It's something that people get into me and they say, because I wouldn't have changed anything about I would never change anything about my career and life and how it turned out. And people say, well, it's easy for you to fucking say because you didn't play 300 games. But the knowledge of what I sort of learnt through that time of being ups, downs. I went to, on a smaller scale of yours, like I've been at a club that's playing a grand final, wooden spoons, in form, out of form, injured, dropped. People want to know you, people don't want to know you. And you learn a lot about that, and it's a really cool way to be. But the thing I think about a lot is once you've been through those things and you've had that perspective, like the reality is everyone listening to this, they can relate to it in their own life. But the second part is unfortunately/fortunately, it's not the last time it's going to happen either. Like there's going to be other things that pop up, and it's just remembering to keep that perspective when you're in it. And I'm actually in it at the moment. Like I was not a massive issue at all, but I'm just thinking like, fuck, things are going okay, but like they're just like, I'm just frustrated. Like that it's not where I want it to be.
In terms of what?
Just
what
like
that be?
Our business, things that are going on with podcasts. Like I think it's when you have aspirations and goals, you get frustrated with yourself. And what's been really a common theme that I'm happy that I've reflected on lately is whenever I get into this funk, I need to just know I'm gonna give this a couple of weeks. I'm gonna be like, things are going really well, but I'm gonna give it a couple of weeks, and I know something good comes from this, because like every time I hit a little roadblock, the next thing is like the next like unlock for the next thing. So I like that. I like your inspiration on that. It made me feel a little bit, makes me feel a lot relatable, because I've heard, I've experienced it myself, and I'm sure people out there now, take away the footy aspect, like jobs, passions.
Oh yeah, what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's just whatever it is.
Yeah, it's good to hear you preface what we're talking about with a grain of salt. That's saying life is still unequivocally great.
Fantastic.
But I'm very lucky at the moment, but we're just trying to squeeze the juice, aren't we?
It's nice to tighten a little bit.
It's nice to tighten. And I think something that helped me, and I think is a useful tool, whether it's sport, business, life, one of those sort of antidotes to helping when you're in the troughs, right? Is around identity, and is around what your values are and what you hang your hat on. If it's entirely work, if it's entirely career, when the chips are down, it's grim. It's pretty hard. So I think what I learned, I've always been a firm believer in it, but it was really my values and the way that I've tried to conduct myself was really tested during those last couple of years. In terms of, hey, well, you say that, you're more than a footballer, but it's turning out that this is actually affecting you quite a bit. This is quite frustrating. Like, it was really challenging my, my beliefs, my belief system. Yeah. And I was able to sort of, go and do therapy and talk about that, and sort of unpack that with a professional and talk about, how normal those things are and where you fill your cup up from. And hey, okay. No, we continue to double down on the other aspects of Brodie during this time. And because we know, as you're living proof of it, you're going to be a human being, Dylan Buckley, way, way, way beyond being a AFL footballer. So if, those pieces of you aren't being coloured in, when it gets to the end, or when the chips are down in your job, if that is everything to you, it is jarring. It is like really damning. But when you can have these other pieces of you that you can sort of play with and nurture, and other people can celebrate about you. Oh, you're a fantastic husband, or a fantastic son, or whatever it might be, getting out in the garden and doing what you're doing is a great stress reliever. So I definitely found thinking more about who I was as a person and how much value I derived out of my sport and my profession, asking myself those questions is, I've found even today quite an interesting exercise.
I appreciate your honesty, man. I really do. I think that, like, it's so easy to say I'm more than an athlete, or you saying I'm more than a footballer when things are going well.
Oh,
but
so
until like they're not going well,
turns out it's pretty
what?
fucking
Fuck,
hard.
maybe I am actually just a footballer at the moment. I need to probably work out a few things.
When you I a hyper, even hearing
Yeah.
you talk about with your podcast, people from the outside would think, Dyl, brother,
Relax.
you've got it. It's
Yeah.
all good, man.
Yeah.
But when you're got that little tick in you that is a high performing person and you want to continue to just level up, like it's, sometimes you need a little bit of patience, self-love, acceptance that potentially timing might not be there, or there could be other things outside of your control, and sometimes it's just be that plastic bag, man. And
the funny part that's, we speak about a little bit, but I'm sure you've realised in saying this is that our biggest strengths are actually our biggest weaknesses as well, in terms of you saying before about like that drive.
Oh, dude.
Like it gets you to, be a incredible ruckman in the AFL and play the songs, but it also is at your detriment in other places.
Yeah.
And like that's been the hardest thing for me to deal with. It's like appreciating your qualities for what they bring out in the good, but then actually trying to limit them when they're fucking you over.
What would that be like for you? What skill or capability is that for Dyl?
I'd say my biggest thing is I'm I don't want to say OCD, but I can hyper focus onto something, and like when it's in my like realm, and like say for example the podcast, when I'm hyper focusing, I will get Brodie Grundy on the podcast, and I will really go and get some great shows, and I think that I'm at my best, and things will go well in business. But also, it's pretty fucking hard to turn that off. So it's affecting me in other parts of my life as well. So whilst you see the result of that hyper focus and it come to fruition, it's one of those things that it's because it's hyper focus, it's fucking hyper, like it doesn't stop. So that's something that I've probably tried. I'm still working at, and it's an easier said than done thing of go for a walk and jump in the water. Even at the moment, like my phone is just I'm trying to just get off that, delete apps, but it's if I'm not scrolling on that, I'm scrolling on my fucking photos. Like I'll scroll on notes. Like I'll scroll on like the weather. So there's other parts too, and but I'd say that's probably one for me. There's many, but that's one that jumps out.
Well, something that always gets spoken about is whether it's hyper focus, this feeling of hyper vigilance, which is when you just feel like you have to be on. Yeah, you're just on, and your body releases stress, cortisol. You're just tense, and that can go on for, you don't even realize that could be going on for days, weeks, months, particularly in a high performing results driven environment. And that can translate to any sort of corporate sector job.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's being able to accept that that's the field that we're playing in, that's the job that we're in, and we're not sort of discounting that.
There's no. Here, I'm going to my therapy sessions now. Like this guy I'm working with at the moment says to me, "Nothing is good or bad. It just is," and I'm like, murder's pretty bad. But, like, do you know what I mean? If you use that, 90% of the time that sort of works. Yeah. And in this situation, it's like, yeah, you're right. Like this hyper-focus thing, for an example, just because we're talking about it, like it's not bad, but it's not good. It just is what it is. Don't overthink
it. And I sort of think letting go of that attachment to the thoughts or but it's easier said than done. It's a challenge, and that's why therapy exists.
Yeah, exactly.
But that just reminded me of when I was last year I was working with someone, and I was saying when I do XYZ, I feel this. I feel this. It was in my reference to something I was doing with my body for sport, and then this person said, it's just a sensation. Like that's just a sensation. You don't need to ascribe that's a good thing or that's a bad sensation. It just is literally, and it was sort of getting into my wheelhouse. Like it was sort of like, that's just, a chemical message being sent along
does that help you?
Well, it's
the
sort of
science side of it.
Yeah, it's sort of the rational part of my brain hooks into that, and I go, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But sometimes that is also when I asked you about, for you it was hyper focus. For me, it's probably analysis by paralysis. I get in the weeds and not really act. So sometimes that can be a bad thing for me. I just trying to, this year for me, my sort of mantra is saying yes getting on the podcast. Yes, I'm going to do that. Stepping into the unknown a bit more. And so far I've done that this year, and it's been nothing but, I'm not even going to say good. They've just been.
It is.
It just is.
Well, man, it looks like it's serving you well. It's really cool.
People are going to be like, "What the fuck are we listening to?"
I'm enjoying it. That's
I hope they're on our wavelength.
No,
man.
I think they are. One thing that it was this isn't funny. I don't know why I'm laughing, but there was something I saw last year, and I want to reflect on it because I just think it's really funny to go back now and see where you are playing in a team, on this level. And I remember watching this footage last year. And this is why I wanted to sort of connect with you in chat, because I'm like, this poor fucking bloke. I remember you were playing at Casey in this game, and there was an assistant coach there chatting to you out of the huddle, and he had a dog with him. And I was like, what the fuck is going on right now? This poor fucking bloke is one of the best ruckmen in the AFL. He's not where he needs to be. And there's a coach there that's taking his dog for a walk and also just come to give some advice. And I was just like, what is going on?
Yeah. It was man. I was playing forward at the time. I was playing forward, so it was I was trying to get all the help I could get, man.
Jeremy Cameron type.
I was trying to get all the help I could get to try and get back in the side. So I was like, if you want to bring your dog to the park and meet me quarter time, I'll take that, man. So
what were you doing there? Were you washing machine type running patterns? Was it just
it's, all the classic sort of bells and whistles that go with forward craft, your tick leads, your vortex, your washing machine.
How much did that teach you on a serious note now of being back playing in a position that you love, and I'm assuming you love, about junior sportsmen, boys and girls maybe listening to this going, strengths versus weaknesses. I'm not saying that forward is a weakness, but a strength of yours is combativeness, contested, ruck work, stoppages, those things. And when form or selection is altering, the direct thing is to go to let's improve something else and focus on something else versus, you know what? I'm really, really fucking good at these three things. Let's focus on those instead.
Yeah, great question. Really, fucking good question, man. Because I think it's a little bit nuanced if you're in a team environment.
Yeah.
Strategy and team fit, all those sorts of things. But let's just say all things equal.
Yeah.
We're just going hard on our strengths.
Yeah.
We're building great self-efficacy, confidence, we're visualizing what we're good at. All those things, I think, help massively. And I think culturally, in any workplace, which is, people seem to forget that football clubs are workplaces, we want to celebrate people's strengths, make them feel good, that they're capable, and ultimately try and get to some sort of mastery level. But for me, that's, there's this inverted U curve that is on the Y axis. It has you sort of, when I do this, I want you to, when you do the edit, I want you to put the U up here, the inverted U.
I'd say the edits aren't in my strength.
So on the Y, it's inverted. So it basically says as the task, as the complexity, and your joy is at the bottom.
Okay.
And it's
I can see this
could be
going really well.
But anyway, it is basically saying you want to get to this point at the very, very top of the U, which is the task is aligned. It's challenging.
Yeah.
It's the arousal. It's a challenging, but it's not, too difficult, or it's not under arousing for you in terms of complexity of your skill set. And if you get to the very, very top of that, you should have maximal enjoyment. But as soon as it gets too hard, your enjoyment comes down because the task is getting too difficult. And for me, it was probably yes, I'm a open-minded, growth mindset person. That's what you get taught when you play sport. Yep, I'm going to step up to the plate. But it was pretty hard. I found it hard. So it was probably it was sort of coming down on the other end of that U curve, and it was probably too challenging at AFL level to sort of learn that and be a high-performing contributor for the team. But now I'm sitting back up the top of that U curve where I'm right in my sweet spot of, you know, my role, my strengths are aligned. I feel, you know, fucking good about what I'm doing on the field, and my enjoyment's really high as a result of that. I feel good about what I'm doing, and I'm contributing, and I feel valued in the side. And again, what we're talking about, that can be extrapolated into anything that you do. So it's about coaching and reinforcing people to, we want to challenge people, but still have them in that, ultimately in that nice little sweet spot where they're being challenged, but the satisfaction's still quite high.
I love the U-curve. Yeah. I'm really excited to get that. So maybe if anyone's listening to this, get the U-curve up on your phone.
I think it's the Yerkes Dobson inverted U.
There you go. Yeah. It makes complete sense. It does. I
feel like such a flog, just referencing that, but
it's a bit of a flex.
It is. It's just a great piece of literature if you just look it up.
Well, it's probably proven it's probably an older thing that's lasted the test of time, I suppose. So
well, I was meditating on that hard, man, because that was just what I was going through.
Love that. Yeah. Well, when you're going through something, you'll find anything to make you feel a little bit better. Won't you? Anything's gonna sort of help. So you'll get into it. When you again, you touched on it a little bit before, but that period, because I want to get to all the incredible things that, you know, your quirkiness off field, all these bits and pieces I want to chat to, but I just want to cover off on that period of leaving the D's, going fucking hell.
This is your hyper focus coming in.
It's my hyper focus.
I love this.
Is getting to the Swans, the conversations with people like Tom Harley, John Longmire, Kinnear Beatson. I'm three of my most respected people in football. I had Tom Harley on the podcast last week, by the way.
Who?
Tom Harley.
Oh, huge.
He's just up there with one of the fucking dudes. A dude.
Yeah.
He's really cool. So we spoke about obviously the chat with you, but from your perspective, because there's three parts to this, right? There's the conversations that you have at Melbourne to in those four walls, and those conversations are obviously private with you, but it'd be awesome to go in the four walls of that. Then the bit going, fuck, I'm putting myself on the line again.
Yes.
Again. Yes. And then the third part is getting to that new club and how those people have reacted to it, I suppose.
Yeah.
I'm hyper-focusing on these questions today.
I love this. It's bright. It gets me up and about. If you weren't engaged, I'd be asleep. So that's not going to be fun.
I don't have Instagram to scroll at the moment, so I'm sort of on.
We have to talk to one another. That's just bizarre.
I don't like it.
Simon Goodwin was awesome.
Yeah.
He knew it was I just said, look, when I went back into the twos, I said, look, mate, I will butter up. I'll do what I need to do. And I'm going to try and get back in the side, and I'll play forward, and I'll do that mix. Obviously, had that chat, and I just said, look, but I'm not a robot. There's going to be times when, you know, I'm going to look a bit dejected. And, you know, I was pretty transparent. It's frustrating. And he said, I totally get it. You just go back and just commit to trying to get better. And that's one thing culturally at Melbourne. It was a environment coached heavily around excellence and continual improvement. So I was like, yep, I'm a part of this. You know, I'm going to commit to this because as a football club, that's what we're about. Although it was, you know, a challenge, I'll sign up for it. And ultimately it was pretty fucking big challenge. And, you know, when it became clear that there was another option that would have fit my needs, I suppose fit my needs and my strengths could fit, you know, the Sydney Swans, it became more of a, okay, we're doing this again. And I just think having those mature roundtable discussions about, you know, where I was at, you know, I had a really good relationship with Alan Richardson, the GM.
Great person.
Just a fantastic operator. And I was just really transparent around, you know, what I was thinking. And they were, obviously super sort of obviously felt for me. And I sort of said, you know, we've all come in here with the best intentions, but we don't want to be in this position, this time in 12 months. Like that, I'm not winning from that. The club's are clearly not winning from that. So let's, sit down and look at our best options where everyone can get a win. And I think when you go in with that mindset, or you go in with, to any sort of conversation, difficult conversations with that intention around sort of collaborating and getting win-wins, I think more often than not, you'll try and you'll get a good outcome. Whereas if there's that hostility, and it's pretty hard to sort of strike a deal. And then obviously, had some conversations with the Swannies, and
how did that start? I'm so intrigued at how, and I know there's obviously privacy to this, but like, how does that work when you're in demand at another club? Like, did your manager approach you about it? Was it direct line? Like,
well, I'll leave some sort of veil.
Yeah, of course. But you don't have to if you don't want to.
It was ultimately we had a meeting, right? And
where was it?
Where was it? It was in Melbourne.
Okay.
And the big dogs flew down. Tom Harley, your Johnny Longmire.
Who else
is there? Charlie Gardner.
I like him.
And look, mate, just went in there, and presentation was like terrific.
That's cool.
It just felt like the vision of the club and what they presented was really clear in terms of where they were going, obviously their history, their present, how their current sort of status quo, and how I could complement that side, particularly calling out my strengths as a player. I asked John, I looked him in the eye, I said, am I going to be playing forward? He said, categorically no. I said, okay, where do I sign?
What did they try and throw you, like a back?
That would make it a full circle.
Like a Mark Blixarves type these days.
But yeah, it was like, how do I fit in the current, and then what's it like sort of looking forward, and then obviously plugging in the lifestyle element of a new adventure. Obviously it's a big city as well. I've got interests away from sport, and sort of make no apologies for having a life outside of the game, and having to sort of consider, well, there's many hours when I'm not playing AFL, what will I be doing? And but ultimately it was a football decision around where can Brodie Grundy contribute most meaningfully, and I felt like it was at the Swans.
I genuinely don't have to comment on this, but I'm actually just curious.
Huge.
Is you look at what you've done, and as I said, like, can't respect that more of like going, give it a crack, pivot, doesn't work, go somewhere else. You look at someone at the moment like Rory Lobb, who's Giants, Fremantle, Bulldogs, not similar position, but obviously in and out of the team at the moment. Like, what advice would you give to not him directly, but in general, anyone else in the AFL? Like, has it been? I suppose it's a position that I think more players are going to find themselves in now because of player movement and the way the game's going.
Well, I think from my experience, I just wanted to get back to what
was best for you,
what makes me when I'm playing. Just be exceptional at your craft. For me, what is that? Okay, I'm a competitive follow-up, contested stoppage ruckman, and I want to be that. And if their side wants that, then there's just a great alignment. I feel good about what I'm doing. The club feels good about what they're getting from me. And obviously you need to continue to perform, but I'll just say, get back to, I think anyone, whether it's doing podcasts or playing footy, it's what are you exceptional at? What are your strengths? Again, going back to our strengths and doubling down on that. And if you are truly exceptional at that over a long period of time, you'll start to differentiate yourself. And I think I found myself probably at Melbourne being like, I'm not quite rucking. I'm rucking sort of half a game. I'm not quite, not really sinking my teeth into that. I'm not really, sinking my teeth into a forward. I'm sort of nowhere. And I haven't watched enough of Rory's situation. But yeah, I think that's something to consider.
Yeah, look.
What do you think?
I think it probably goes. It's actually a decision the other way. I look at it now being in business, and business is such a weird word, but it technically is a business. We have 14 staff now, which is crazy. It's just like gone from me in my bedroom to like this business, and I try and read.
Just picturing you in your bedroom.
Oh mate, we do some things in there. We'll leave that off. But there's this book called Good to Great, and I was actually chatting to Tom Harley about this last week, and I think people listening think this is the only fucking book I've ever read because it's the only one I quote. There's another one actually called The Mountain Is You, which I want to send to you. I think you'd really like it. And it speaks about two sort of parts. Like one is like who's on the bus, and it talks about like this bus being like you've got to get the right people on the bus. And the other part about that is around no one's. Now I'm going to butcher this, but it's from a probably more of a coaching perspective or a business owner's perspective, is no one's ever not doing their job to their full capacity. They're just in the wrong role. So it's like you're not, this person, chop the head off whoever it is, isn't a bad employee. You're just not using them to their full capacity, or they're not in the right thing. And if the right thing isn't with you, that's maybe what it is. But maybe you've got them in accounting when realistically they should be in partnerships. Or vice versa.
Well, I think it goes back to the U curve, the inverted U, which is, are you under aroused? Are you over aroused? What is that? Why is that? Is it your skill set? Okay, what are you good at? And it's trying to put people in spaces where they can be the best version of themselves, ultimately, isn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah, I love it. I think that there's a question on both sides of that, whether it's like, that take away that example, but it's just even in your own life, you can think about it in your own job, in your own situations of relationships and stuff. You can think about it the most, because I don't think very rarely people are going out there to not perform to their best. Not just in sport, but in life in general.
Well, sometimes we can be not performing at our best, but we don't know it. We're just coasting. Sometimes we're just living a bit
coasted before.
Unconscious of our intentions or our purpose, or why we are doing what we're doing. And you might actually be that you are, having a really good fit in terms of your job and your character strengths and what you're good at. But you're just in a bit of a funk, and I think it's good to sort of revisit those things, and have the people on your bus that really know you, and they can go, hey, Dyl, you're not doing what you said you're going to do, or like, when you spoke about doing this, like, hey man, like that's I can't see that eventuating at the moment, or just having your inner circle. I think that's really what we're saying, to support you and continue to guide you, I guess.
Did you have Mick Malthouse early days? Did you never had him?
No.
Okay. No, it's just an interesting point, like that he made. It's like, you hear those things and they stick with you, like to your life, goes out. And when you're saying before about surrounding yourself with people, it's like the one thing he said to me is like, how many friends have you got? And I was like, I've got heaps of mates on Facebook. And he's like, Dylan, I think he said son, actually. He's like, son, I'm telling you got 5 friends. And the reason being is you can count your friends on your fingers, and that's actually all you need. And where this comes in, I'm trying not to be, I know I'm getting sidetracked, but it's more around, if you have those people on your bus around you, you'll always find yourself making the right decisions. And I'm just so lucky that I have a really good bus. You're welcome. You've got to reply to the you've got to reply to the Oyster card. But yeah, it's just I thought that was a cool point. I didn't know if he'd maybe said it if he was at Pies with you.
No, but it's true. Like, it's a universal sort of sentiment, isn't it? I'm reading a book at the moment called the 80-20 Principle.
I've tried to articulate that many a times on this show and butcher it every time.
Yeah. So, and it uses that principle in, so, that 20% of your input results in 80% of your output.
Yes. You got it.
And so it can be used it references all different sorts of contexts in which that is useful. And one of them is your social circle. And really your high value 20% of your core inner circle on the bus, riding the highs, riding the lows. that 20% of real close mates are going to give you 80% of the comfort, loyalty, joy that you're going to have throughout your life. So shout out to Mick Malthouse.
Well done on that articulation, by the way, because that was fly. Really good.
But I agree. I agree on that.
Can you bringing back to the Swan stuff, the Tom Harley, John Longmire, and I'm not naive enough to think that those are two people that make the club what it is. I know there's countless amount of incredible people at football clubs, but what I think as like a person or a lover of footy that's never been in the four walls of the Swans, there's this idea of the Bloods culture and this club. And did you have that, and has it lived up to your expectations?
When I was a junior, I was in the AIS AFL Academy, and Michael O'Loughlin was the coach, and Brett Kirk was a mentor, and Tom Harley was a mentor as well. So I knew Tom, I knew Brett, and I knew Mickey O quite well. And they would sort of reference, even as a junior, and I sort of think that program was really formative for my development as a footballer and as a person, because it was very values led. It was discipline, do the things you say you're going to do, so integrity, and it was more than being a footballer. It was very much how you rock up, how you conduct yourself, the sort of character you are. They were very big on character in that junior program, and if you happen to play good footy, then that's a bonus, because you're an ambassador of the game. You're an ambassador of your family, your friends, all that sort of stuff. So that's really stuck with me. So when you have those sorts of operators that have come through the walls, and you said that when you sit with John and the coach and Tom Harley, they're not, there's more to the club than those two figureheads. But really, when you're a player and you're interfacing with those people, they actually are a proxy for the entire club. So that's why the pitch is actually really important, and how you connect with those people in that moment. That's my thought. So you want to feel like you align particularly with those people, and thankfully I did, and I just got a real sense that it was a people's led club, very much big on their people. And I think now having been here for 6-8 months, however it is, I think we're continuing to evolve and look at how we can get better and form a new iterations of the Bloods culture, if you want to call it that. But ultimately it's been built on the back of discipline, relentless sort of commitment to rocking up and working really hard.
What's John Longmire like? I'm having hyper focus on him at the moment, just in my life, because I've for some reason I just don't feel like he gets the respect he deserves. Not that he's asking for it, but he just does his thing, man. And you think about probably two coaches over the modern, over the the 2000s periods, I suppose, of sustained success. And this I was talking to Tom Harley about a few weeks ago, was like Geelong and the Swans are two clubs you just can never really write off. And John's been a big part of that, as well as a lot of other people have established. What makes him a good operator?
Well, again, prefacing this in I've only been there a very, very small glimpse, and many and
sometimes first impression, and in some cases maybe that's the best
because I'm not entrenched in it. But I'm being a bit of a sponge still and observing and sometimes I'll ask questions like, why do we do things this way? And if that makes sense, let's continue to do it that way, or we could find different ways of working. But like pretty intimidating sort of operator.
I'm scared of him.
But when you sit down and you actually have a heart to heart, massive heart, like very caring, deep thinker, very considered, and I think what's ultimately the best for his players and his club. And you just cannot spend that long at the helm, and you would be hard pressed to find someone that has for that long of a tenure, unless you're exceptional at what you do, right? Like that's Mick Malthouse, we spoke about him. He coached for a long time, but it's pretty hard unless you're bloody special at what you do. It's tough caper.
Yeah, to stay there.
Oh yeah,
I completely agree. Yeah, it's that's fascinating. I'm so excited to see what happens with you guys this year. Just in terms, it looks like a fun club to be. You look at guys like Chad Warner, Errol Goulden, Rowbottom. God, like the lists go on. Like Tom McCartan. There's just so many players that are exciting. Is it? Does it resemble anything you've done before, or is it a completely new experience? Like, let's not, footy is footy at the end of the day, but also two clubs, different things, different teammates, different perspectives now too.
I think, as you know, you have played at multiple clubs. It's ultimately the operations is very, very similar.
Yeah.
Come in, train, massage, weights. You cross it, you tick a lot of the same boxes, right? But it's the way in which you tick those boxes that are very different, and that's what culture is, and it has been noticeably different across the clubs that I have been a part of, and it doesn't mean that one's better than the other. They're just different, and made up of different, legacies. And you're talking about, for example, Brett Kirk's legacy. And his time at Sydney, and just learning a bit more about the sort of character and the sort of player he was, and what that's now led to in terms of a really selfless, hard edged team, and I don't know if that really answers your question, but I think there's only so many ways you can cross the T's and dot the I's. Like, if you do it for however many games, it's more the way in which you do it that is different. And I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. But can I ask you, last year, Collingwood winning the grand final, I sort of forgot about this.
Same.
I know the politically sort of correct answer would be, you're so happy for the team, it's fantastic, good on them, but there'd have to be some form of like, fuck you. Surely. You'd be human. I didn't play there, and I'm angry at them.
When everybody loves to hate Collingwood. Right?
You know what? In that game, I felt like new era.
Yeah.
Dacos.
Yeah.
I don't want them to win any again. Yeah. One was enough, but
I was preparing for them to make and win the grand final the year that I was injured and leaving. Yep. They only lost to Swans. I think it was Swans by a point in the prelim.
That's why you went there.
I don't know. Don't quote me. I think that was what it was. So the whole time I was injured and not playing, I was thinking, Brodie, like, you've been here for 10 years and you just need to prepare yourself mentally that
this could happen.
I think we're the best team, and we're going to win a flag and you won't be there. So just deal with that, sort of.
It's hard.
Just sit in that for a bit and just see how you go, like, champ. So some, 12 months earlier, I sort of knew, like, they're a high-performing, great team. And I think in many respects I sort of had accepted the success of the club, and the direction that they were going, and I could see that even when I was a player there, and the culture that they've cultivated and the direction they were going, the players that they've got, and you could see that they're going to be right up there. So it wasn't really a surprise. Did it make it easier? No, I didn't actually watch the whole game. I was doing a full day uni intensive, and I finished at like 5 o'clock and came home, and I was like, okay, I'll just turn on for the last quarter. And we're watching, and Geordie De Goey kicks that goal from out the square, I think, or steal. One of those sort of late goals where you just knew it was over. And I just walked out the back and started just shooting hoops, just being like, just obviously realising that, they're going to go on to win a flag and you're not going to be a part of that, and just reconciling that. And but in many respects, my detachment from the club had happened. Some almost 18 months that began. So it wasn't like super raw, but you devote 10 years. Your whole sort of your value set is very influenced by the club. You go in as an 18-year-old. You have the banners of the legends up there. You want to be up there one day too, and you're really wedded to the cause for a long time. Like you're really ingrained in the culture and the fabric of the club, and it's hard to sort of slowly separate that. So I could say confidently that I'm really proud of that group because I was a part of that group for a long time. But selfishly, you wish you could do that, and hopefully, that's what I'm obviously chasing at the Swannies.
It's a really good answer, man. I appreciate your honesty because I think, a lot of people sometimes you want to say, of course, you're happy for it, but mate, like, if I'm being completely honest, like, I'm so not that I ever was attached to a club as much as you were, and I played 0.1% of the games and impact on but still I watch.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't, because I watch and go, fuck.
Dude, it does not matter how long you've been somewhere, how many games you played. If anything, it's harder if you hadn't played.
Yeah,
if you hadn't played,
that's actually probably a good point.
Or you got injured, or it's not. The career that's up
still
in
there.
lights.
I think I would have struggled a lot more. I'm very wary of talking about myself in these shows. People say stop bringing yourself into it, but I'm very wary that if I hadn't have actually got another opportunity at the Giants, I reckon I'd have a different outlook on it, because it would be like, fuck, I didn't get that second chance. But then like the second one was, I'm so grateful, was like that's cool. Now it's done.
Yeah.
But it's like anything. I think there's so, I speak to, I had Nick Riewoldt on once, and I really appreciated his honesty too around when Jack Riewoldt won at Richmond.
Yeah.
He's like, man, that was the worst fucking day ever.
Oh, really?
He's like, I'm so happy for him.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it easier on me.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's interesting. It's again, it's not good. It's not bad.
It is.
It just is.
It is.
And it is interesting because I have guys like Mason Cox, Darcy Moore, like super close with, and like Darcy is a premiership captain.
Yeah.
And I'm slapping him
up.
Did
you get drafted with him? Or
no, I think I was
apart?
Year above or 2 years above, but super close.
Yeah.
Mason, like what he went through, even with his injuries, his journey, his eyes, like his surgery, and just the amount of shit he's copped and gone through, and now he's a premiership player.
Yeah.
No one will ever be able to take that away from those guys. So I'm just like, good on you. You fucking do what you do, and you did it well.
Well, mate, who knows what's going to happen this year? Can I ask you, what do you do to stay at your best physically and mentally? What do you do? It doesn't have to, like, anything. What do you think you do? Because I'm actually curious, like, I need some tips.
What do I do to stay at my...
Physically, you've sort of ticked it, like, with being an elite athlete and getting paid to work out. It sort of ticks that box.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's probably more to the other
What
one.
do I do mentally to...
That isn't a part of the natural program? Because you're a quirky guy.
Oh, yeah. So what's quirky mean? Like,
I like the word.
Yeah. So like when you say quirky, what does that?
Well,
how do you what does that mean to you when you say?
Well,
that?
I think that it's. I don't see you.
It's not good. It's not bad.
It is. No, I think quirky. Look, I'd say that I'm quirky.
Yeah.
I'd say that it's maybe. I'd put it in this analogy, right? If there's a group of guys doing one thing, I'd often go, well, just because you guys are doing that, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that you're somewhat like that.
Yeah. Would you do that like intentionally?
In spite of
okay.
just to not be doing what everyone else is doing.
So I don't think I do it in spite. I just think those things, whatever those things might be, either don't interest me or they don't bring me joy, and they don't align with who I am. And so I try and, one of my values is to try and just be as authentic as I can.
Yeah.
And so if I don't fuck with it, I don't do it.
Yeah.
And cool. Sometimes when I do try and do that, I feel that ickiness, you know, and I don't like feeling that ickiness. So I just try and do me, Dyl.
Do you, man?
So
reflecting on that now, I think the Spike comment was a bit weird. I don't think that.
No.
Yeah.
And I know what you mean.
I know what you mean though too.
Yeah. It's just sort of, I'm going to do me.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that in a team environment, super conscious of what that looks like, because it's important not to, you know, you got to have a nice balance in the wolf pack. You can't be lone wolf.
Yeah.
But I think the best environments I've been in is we celebrate everyone for their strengths and what they bring as people. And if we have a really diverse, rich sort of array of personalities and what people bring to the table, and we do that and we cultivate that in a way that is really still respectful and aligns with the vision of the club or the business, massive tick. Like, fuck, that's because you wouldn't want to work in an office where everyone's just doing the same shit. No one's going to be able to innovate. You're not going to be able to have a conversation.
No. You got to. I'm vomiting at the fact now that I called you quirky, because I feel like that's what like a boomer would have done, and I'm just realised that. But this is a podcast and it's live. The one thing, probably in reflection, is what you're saying. I feel, and what I wholeheartedly believe is surrounding yourself with different people, different values, different interests, different hobbies is awesome. Yeah. It gives you such a better perspective on who you are, what you enjoy, but also respecting other bits and pieces as well.
Yeah.
And that's what footy clubs are incredible for.
And man, like when I moved from Adelaide to Melbourne, an explosion of like multiculturalism and learning about different cultures and traveling. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've taken the most growth from is being in different environments and learning from different people. And I think I just asked you because I quite often hear...
No, I know.
Yeah, no.
It's
And
like
I'm
a
not,
Herald Sun article.
No, and I don't... It's not good, it's not bad. It's just, it's interesting.
It is,
And we're digging a bit deeper.
I've got something that you like.
Dyl Friends.
I've got something you like.
We're digging deeper.
we do.
And I don't want you to forget this, but I want to finish this train of thought.
Please do.
Which is, when I got drafted, I had some great mentors. One of them was Haritia Lumumba and Travis Cloak. And for different reasons, and I can go deeper into that if you want to, but ultimately what they're about was just think a little bit deeper about where you are and the opportunities you have, and just be you, just be yourself. And okay, that was incredibly just, people potentially won't understand the impact that has on a young 18-year-old going into a quite a hyper masculine environment. I didn't grow up a footy head, so that was a really freeing advice and mentorship that I had, and it just allowed me to branch out and just read things that I wanted to read, go and do things that I wanted to do. I didn't have this stereotypical... I suppose it enabled me to just do and explore and not feel like shame because I'm not going to the races on Saturday. Like that doesn't, there's nothing wrong with that, but I feel like the stereotypical, when I get that I'm quirky or I'm different, I think in the context of AFL, potentially that might be true because of a stereotype, but the stereotype doesn't exist, man. It's not real. Like you go into any football club now, the demographics changed so much. Like it was probably a little bit more, there's an ideal and the public has an image of what an AFL footballer would look like. But now I don't think you can really say that. Like when I first put my hair in a bun, like that was apparently a big deal 10 years ago. That's so normal now. And I did that because I wanted to do it. I didn't do it because, to try and be an outlier. Like you go to you go to Brunswick and everyone's got their hair up. Like big deal just because I play AFL. So I think I've just tried to...
No, it's cool.
Humanize the AFL experience and just show that we are people, we're normal, and we're just out here just doing us.
think you've really genuinely articulated that very,
and I'm
very
conscious
well.
that came across as like a rant, but
It wasn't a rant.
It is
It's
something,
something that's happened a lot.
I'm I'm conscious of that narrative, and I feel quite passionately about.
You're not quirky, you're just Brodie.
Well, more so around what that means then for the narrative of AFL players, because people have an idea about the life that we live and what we do and how we should be. And yeah, I don't know if you feel that.
Well, I think
but I'm just against that. I'm here to advocate that everyone's different. And as long as your intentions are good, your values are aligned with whatever team or whatever organization you're working in, like, you just do what you need to do.
Yeah. Well, we like to say here, motto of the show is be yourself, everyone else is taken.
Huge.
But I think what's really cool, having mentors like Heredia Lumumba and Travis Cloak.
Way too big for this desk.
You're a big boy. I don't think a lot of guys, young guys, have that person telling them that. And in wholehearted seriously, this is why I love getting people like yourself, and I hope that this podcast is for other people to realise that you don't have to fit into a mould, man. You can do whatever the fuck you want. Like, you're talking about having a man bun. Like, do you think, how cool do you think people thought I was when I was getting delisted starting the podcast? Can you imagine how cool that was back then?
Yeah, you see it through, and then you just...
that wasn't cool.
You know what the coolest fucking thing is, man? When you just own it.
Yeah.
Like, when you own that shit, then it goes from, oh, fuck, look what Dyl's doing over here. He's doing a podcast. To then you double down, man. And then all of a sudden it's like...
You got to back yourself.
Fuck, dude. Have you seen Dylan and Friends? That shit's like fire. And then it's just like, but your inner circle, they got you from the day dot, you know?
So it's really...
You get me? You get what I'm
I know
saying?
exactly what you're saying. Can I give you one analogy that I love saying? And it's I've realised this over many of thoughts driving on Punt Road. But that decision came to fruition for me with committing to the podcast, and for you, whatever that thought was, and many other people. But I used to drive on Punt Road a lot of the time, and you know when you're in the middle lane and you put your indicator on to turn left, if you stand there, right, and you wait for everyone to let you in, you wait for people to be like, oh man, just, I wonder if they're going to let me in. No, fuck that. That's a shit idea. We're not letting you in. But if you put your indicator on, you start turning, people get the fuck out of your way.
Yeah.
And it comes back to that thing. It's like, if you just put your indicator on and turn into that decision and commit to that and double down, exactly what you're saying, people go, oh, fuck, this guy's a good driver.
Yeah.
He really knows where he's going. He wants to turn left.
Yeah.
Let's let him go and back him.
Yeah. And I think there's two things about that. You either do that from, I deeply know myself.
Yep.
And I know what I stand for, and I know my North Star, and I'm going towards that. And if you are the lucky few in the entire universe that is that sure of yourself, I'm jealous. Tick. Good work. Or you are like probably most of us, which is you're trying to navigate what you want, who you are.
Oh, yeah.
And like my trades, you're going to put your indicator on. I'm going to have a crack here. Oh, it doesn't work out. That's okay. I'm going to change lanes. You know what I mean?
You've just doubled down on my own analogy, I like that.
So you need to, no matter what, fail fast, fail
Make the
quick,
decision.
have a go, because you'll look back and you'll see the Punt Road that you've travelled, and you'll be like, shit, I actually accrued so much experience, so much knowledge about myself.
I'm actually on Toorak Road now.
And now I'm on Toorak Road and we're laughing.
Mate, we could do this all day, every day. Fuck, it really... I'm wary. Not that I wanted to talk about footy, and I wasn't going to ask you about your favourite ruck tap you've ever done. That was not really what was on the run sheet. But no, I appreciate the chat, man. It's been incredibly fascinating.
Oh, we had a time. Is that what you're
No,
saying? Oh,
not at all. You want to finish up? I thought you were trying to finish.
Warming up.
No, me too. What do you want to do with like the next part of your life?
Wow. Love this.
Okay, chapter 2.
I think about this a lot, man.
Yeah.
So when we winding back to the hyper-vigilant, hyper-focused stuff, like my thing is I don't think too much about the past, but I think a lot about the future. It's like trying to be prepared. It's probably that's the part of me that I suppose can be anxiety inducing if you're always thinking about the future up. So I think about it a lot, but I don't necessarily know. but I have some things that I think I'm good at. And I think if I could put myself in some environments where I could add value, then that would be a good thing. I think one of those is working in football department.
I would not have picked that.
Fascinating. So I'm happy to elaborate on this.
I think.
Go on.
No, I fucked it with the quirky thing.
No, you
again.
haven't.
Do you reckon that's why? Because I've got this.
Love this review.
Do you reckon why? That's no. I think that's why.
It's
because
huge self-awareness.
Yeah.
No. I've only come to this late.
Yeah. Okay.
Because when I was coming through, I think one of the biggest things why I've been so committed to off-field development and study is that when I was coming through, I had a few. You have these sort of critical moments in your life, or sort of that sort of imprint on you. And one of them was when I was just started playing footy. I crossed over from basketball, and I was going home with some friends, and this mum was picking us up, and she said, "Oh, like, so you're going to start playing footy?" And she said to me, don't be one of those, AFL players, sort of thing," and just said it with a really bad sort of framing around what it meant to be an AFL player. And I was probably 16, and that really stuck with me. And again, I didn't grow up watching football, so I didn't really know what the stereotypical or the narrative was around the archetype of a football player. But I'm just hearing this from someone that I trusted, and I'm going, oh, okay, so maybe that's not a good thing. Obviously went ahead and trained and wanted to do that, but I was always conscious of then, okay, well, what is the stereotype around AFL footballers? And if I can help sort of maybe change that, or build an identity away from being a footballer and show that I'm more than just that. I think that was maybe an example of a moment in time where I thought, fuck, it's probably good to have other strings to your bow and not double down on being a footballer. And a part of that is probably obviously like just trying to be a high performer and continuing to learn and just being curious. But yeah, do you have any examples of, like, has that ever happened to you? Has anybody ever around like the stereotypical footballer or someone ever?
I think that the point earlier around you were making around like Heredia and Travis, that conversation you had, I fell into that because I didn't have that. Like, for example, I don't really, I don't gamble. I don't like going to the. I know these are just stereotypical, but they actually are things that happen that with a lot of.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
But I don't enjoy that stuff. And for a long time, I just did it because I thought this is what I have to do.
Why?
Because I just thought that was to be cool. I just wanted to be liked. I wanted to have mates. And
did you feel like if you didn't do that, you wouldn't be accepted?
100%. Well, it was more the fact that like I was so insecure about my own self that I didn't. I just didn't have the belief in myself or the values that that could help me make decisions that were actually truer to my North Star, and as you in your words. And it took me that period of like, getting delisted and stuff to be like, no one gives a fuck.
Yeah.
No one fucking cares, man. Everyone's as insecure as himself. And if the only person you're fucking over right now is yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're not doing what you're actually meant to be doing. And my earliest memory of that was when, like footy clubs come and do the TV shows. And again, like I was, I was never really a consistent player. I was like, oh, how fucking embarrassing. Hey, if you want to do media, you got to be playing. You got to be playing good footy. I was doing neither of those and got slammed for it, breaking out of those lines of doing it. But then realised if you can, committed to it and everyone wanted to come on the show. So, yeah, I fucked up a little bit and didn't have maybe the great advice around me to stick true to who that was at that period, and had to sort of work it out the hard way and actually go really against my own values to then rebut back.
That's really vulnerable, and like thanks for sharing that, because that's like pretty powerful to hear that.
I think like 90% of guys probably find that.
Yeah.
No, I don't think as many. That's why I think these conversations are so important. But someone might listen to this and go, I fucking hate those two guys. But the lesson around me just being true to myself, you can't complain with. Like, you can't actually argue with that.
Yeah. It's what I was saying earlier around avoiding that sort of yucky feeling when you go home at night. Like if you, and we're not fucking Yoda. I don't know everything, but I'm trying to just, ultimately you just want to keep finding the path that you feel most aligned to and you feel more of yourself. And sometimes you're going to stumble off that and make mistakes and not be the best version of yourself. But it's just a commitment to just jump back on that.
Just keep trying.
With your fam, with your inner circle, and this is the direction you're going. You're going to change lanes. You're going to put your indicator on. But I think that's better than sometimes, you, as we all have been at times, you just living a bit, going through the motions. You don't really realize what you're saying. Language, I think, is really important. What you're saying, how you're saying it, tone of voice, like all these things that, it sort of adds up to the picture of who you are. And I'm just lucky I've had like really good people that sort of kick me out the arse and go, hey, like that was shit, man. That's actually not fucking good enough. Like get back in line around, not get back in line, but just, I know that's not you.
Yeah.
And I'm really lucky.
What was a time where you reckon you weren't being true to that and that happened? Does there anything stand out?
Well, just straight off the top of my head, like my mum was probably a massive influence on me, just in terms of not being afraid of, I suppose, just doing what you felt like you wanted to do. Just being yourself. There's been times where I might be at a party or a function and fuck, I've said something I shouldn't have said, or I've done it in a way. I don't know if anybody else has felt this, but you go home at night, and particularly when you're drinking, so I don't actually really like drinking that much. I get a bit sort of anxious around. I just get a bit anxious sometimes. So I don't really like drinking too much.
Drinking and anxiety is a common thing.
So then I think, well, why do I drink? Why would I drink? I still like to do it socially, but I don't need to get pissed, because most of the time when I get pissed, I don't like the way I feel. So, okay, well, if you're an intelligent person, you'd probably think not to do that. And so sometimes, I suppose that's maybe an example of
it's good
when I'm sort of reevaluating my decisions, and I'm not perfect. I still like to have a send when it's a 30th or a bucks, but more often than not, I just try and, I suppose, make decisions that I feel comfortable with.
I think one thing that
I don't know where we started on that,
but I think one thing that I'm getting from this, and one thing that I hope maybe echoes your thoughts, is when life's not easy, definitely not. But when it started getting a lot easier for me was when I realised no one actually fucking knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm the first person to put my hand up saying, I love this show, I love talking on this show, but like, I'm just trying to work it out, man. I'm never coming off as an expert. Like, this is what's worked for me at this stage.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, it might not be. It like really might not be.
Yeah.
So as long as you just give it a crack, try not to give a fuck about what anyone thinks, and be as true to yourself as you can. I think then that's
and I think what I have learnt to do to make myself feel more comfortable in being me and saying what I believe, because I'm 30 years old now. Like, I feel like I have opinions on things. Like, when you grow up in the media, it's very easy to just sit on the fence about things. But like, I have views, and I think what I've learnt now is to say that, well, this is how I feel. This is my view. This is my lived experience. And no one can, you can't really apologize for your own lived experience. If you frame it in that way, I think that is useful. I don't know where the hell we started with that, but I liked sort of where we got to.
I feel like we're...
But it's really hard. Like, there's other forces. When you get into an AFL club, when you're 18, there are some powerful forces at play.
Bloody oath.
And so that's why I think culture is so important.
Yeah.
And this is where we got to. Football administration.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So, fuck, it's all coming together.
Yeah.
So when I first started, I was like, I'm more than a footballer for these sorts of reasons. I'm going to carve a path out. I'm going to try and be the best player I can be, but I'm also going to fill my cup through different things.
Yep.
Blah, 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 blah. And then I realized, hold on, why would I walk away from, you know, hopefully maybe 15 years industry experience? Why would you, you've played AFL football, you've been 3 different clubs, you've had a really interesting lived experience, you've done your undergrad, you've done your MBA. It's sort of, now I'm just coming full circle and thinking there's things clearly that I'm passionate about that I think culturally and as an organisation I feel like I have strong views on. And I think, if you combine that with, you know, the strategic thinking on the football side, on the administration side, I think, that's something I'd be super interested in. Not so much the coaching, not so much the...
Yeah, so you're doing like Tom Harley route.
So when he slid into the DMs about coming to Sydney, I was like...
So was Tom.
Yeah, I was like...
we got it, guys.
I was like...
I got it. Hyperfocus.
I was like, that's really cool. Because like,
fuck yeah.
I like what you've done.
He actually did say that, by the way, in the other episode.
He did.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I'm going... Yeah, and I actually reached out to him prior on LinkedIn being like... Because I knew him from when I was young. Yeah. But I said, dude, like... I didn't say dude, but I said, Tom, I'd love to, out with you and get a coffee and talk to you about your career and what you've done. And obviously what you're doing now is obviously amazing. And that was at the start of the year. Like when you're in Melbourne, I'd love to catch up. And then, 6 months later, mid-year, he's like, mid-year or whatever it was, he's just like, yes, we do need to catch up.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That just on that relationship with him and not just with him, but in terms of trajectory of career path and stuff, like I can definitely see that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But the funny part of this, just to fill you in on, is like, I knew Tom from a long time ago as well, and the reason we connected was through LinkedIn as well. So
great platform.
It's a great platform.
A great professional platform. Like, it's great.
There's something about Tom Harley on LinkedIn. Now, please, everyone, don't go and
we can
message him.
We'll be able to put
can you get it?
We'll be able to put this on. I made it.
We're mid pod taking selfies. We love that. That's on LinkedIn tonight.
But yeah, so in the football side, working in some capacity, I don't know what my strengths are, but staying curious, see what that looks like. I'm going to, through the back end of this and end of the season, go into a financial services firm and just learn a bit more in the weeds around sort of the numbers and get my hands dirty there. But there's a few things that I'm interested in. So I'm just going to explore, man, and keep changing lanes, as we were saying, around what sticks.
Keep indicating.
That's right.
Hey, today, I really appreciate it. Are you happy I finally stayed on task? I feel like we've solved some problems today. Or maybe even created some more.
I feel like we're like just getting started, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I'll be back. Don't worry about that. We'll go after this and get a coffee. But yeah, like genuinely excited for like what's ahead for you, not just in footy, but in life as well. And I think you got a lot to offer. I know you got a lot to offer, not just for young people, but you know, teammates, friends, family.
Thanks, man.
And super intrigued, super excited for people to listen to this, and I think it's going to help them a lot.
Cool.
So I appreciate you. I appreciate me for being persistent and hyper focus on this, because I knew that it would be good. And and
thank you for. I thought you were going to duly credit yourself, but you tried to give it banter. But no, like you actually hit some vulnerable spots and you shared some shit that will help people.
Thank you.
So respect.
Love
it's good to be on.
Yeah,
love
anytime, mate. We'll do it again.
Cool.
Commit to it.
You
don't like doubling up?
Commitment's like something that I do.
I've noticed that there.
I've
noticed that via our DMs on Instagram. I've definitely noticed that.
Well, I know we're wrapping up and we're being kicked out, but I sort of said to you, just let me know, I think.
Yeah.
And so, again, I need you to push me.
I will. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Love that.